Merry Christmas, everybody. We thought how appropriate it would be to talk about Jesus as God incarnate in flesh, Immanuel, Jehovah, Immanuel. You know, it comes from the great book of Isaiah, chapter 7. In fact, I want to read a verse or two for you from chapter 7, verse 14. Isaiah, prophesying hundreds of years, over 700 years before Jesus, says this. He says, "Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign, and the virgin will conceive and have a son, and name him Immanuel." Immanuel, which means literally, God is with us. And you see this, of course, fulfilled in the whole Christmas story in the Gospel of Matthew and so forth, and all the uses of the name for Jesus as Immanuel, God with us. And when I think about that idea, and there's so many practical ramifications of God as Immanuel, with us, the incarnation, that God takes on flesh, that he incarnates himself into the earth. And I think of the subtleties of it and yet the loftiness of it. And one of my favorite passages on the power and the profundity of the incarnation actually comes from the book of Hebrews, where the author of Hebrews is writing to these Jewish Christians who have really lost their way, and they've lost the amazing first love of who Jesus actually is as God incarnate on the earth. And the author of Hebrews writes to them and says this. In chapter 4 of Hebrews, I'm going to read a few verses of it for you. He says this: "Therefore, since we have such a great high priest who is ascended into the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, Immanuel, let us hold firmly to the faith we profess. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses." I love that line. "Who's not able to empathize with us in our weaknesses. But we have one who was tempted, has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet was without sin." And then the author of Hebrews says, "Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace in our time of need." Now, I don't know what you might be going through at Christmas. No doubt a mixed experience for all of us in some ways, but some of us have a harder time than others. And perhaps we've lost a loved one recently, or we are just struggling in our careers or our college education, perhaps dealing with loneliness, kind of feeling like no one's got our back even, all kinds of dynamics in the beauty and the messiness of Christmas. But this one reality of God, Immanuel, of Jehovah Immanuel, that is that we have one who can empathize, not just sympathize, but empathize with us in our weaknesses, one who can enter in to our weaknesses and help us and care about what's actually going on in our lives. So we can go to God in prayer with absolute confidence that he doesn't judge us, he doesn't shame us, he wants to include us and comfort us and give us mercy. That's what the verse says, that we may receive mercy and find grace. Grace. God's riches at Christ's expense. Grace in our what? In our time of need. Jehovah, Immanuel, God is with you. He's with you this Christmas. He cares for you. He loves you. You can depend on him for everything that you need this Christmas season. Merry Christmas.